Harvesting bivalves in British Columbia can be an intimidating process. Not only are the regulations hard to decipher, navigate, and interpret, not following them can have dire consequences. Contaminated shellfish can pose a wide variety of adverse health effects, which include death. In this video, I'm going to lay out the regulations and restrictions so you can go with good peace of mind that you're not going to fall ill or find yourself unknowingly breaking the rules. The first step is to find the area you plan to harvest from on the Department of Fisheries and Oceans website. For example, if you're in the Nanaimo area, chances are you'll be harvesting from Area 17. And if you're in Victoria, more than likely Area 19. Before we continue, it's worth noting that bivalve harvesting around the lower mainland of British Columbia have been off limits for decades. This includes both Area 28 and 29. Once you nail down your area, you'll need to get a bit more specific and pin down your sub-area. Area 17 has 21 sub-areas alone, and each one will present different harvesting opportunities, if any at all. Within each sub-area, you may also have a sanitary closure. A sanitary closure is often a small area within a sub-area that could pose contaminated shellfish due to sewage runoff, industrial activity, marinas, or possibly at a river's mouth that could be pulling contaminated water from upstream. Some of these sanitary closures are permanent, while others may only be seasonal. Bivalves feed by filtering water, so contaminants can accumulate and result with severe consequences if ingested. Area 17, Sub-Area 10, for example, has one sanitary closure labeled 17-7. This would be a result of the marina and anchorages in the area and the possibility of pollutants. Specific GPS coordinates of each area, sub-area, and sanitary closure can be found in the regulations. Once you found your desired location, it's time to check the open bivalve species table in the regulations. Remember, check the day you plan on harvesting, as closures can take place with little to no warning. For your safety, it's paramount to ensure compliance. Currently, as I'm making this video, Area 17, Sub-Area 10 is open for little neck clam, manila clam, mussels, and oysters. If the species you want to target is not included in the list, it's off limits. This could be in part to conservation, or like in the rock scallops case, they are known to hold on to toxins longer than other bivalves, so they remain closed. Plus, the DFO doesn't have the budget to consistently check rock scallops for biotoxins. Before you go out, spend time learning about each species in the open table. Learn how to properly identify them, their desired habitats, and best harvesting techniques, including transportation, preparation, and cooking. You'll have to check the species table to find out your daily and possession limits. Your daily limit is the maximum you're permitted to harvest in one day, and your possession limit is the maximum you can have on you while you're outside of your ordinary residence. For example, manila clam have a daily limit of 60 and a possession limit of 120. If I went on a week-long boat trip, I should never have more than 120 manila clam on me at any point, while still ensuring my daily limits are not exceeded. If you're returning your catch to your ordinary residence, only daily limits would apply. Last but not least, don't forget to read the restrictions for any size limits and other pertinent information. Both manila clam and little neck clam have a daily limit of 60. Does that mean I can bring home 120 clams? No, your combined daily limit must not exceed 60. For example, 20 little neck, 20 manila, and 20 butter clam would equal my combined daily limit of 60. While harvesting in the Pacific Rim National Park, your combined daily limit must not exceed 24. Similarly, blue mussels have a daily limit of 75, and California mussels a daily limit of 25. Does that mean I can bring home 100 mussels? No. 25 California mussels and 50 blue mussels would equal your combined daily limit of 75. Some bivalves have size restrictions. Both manila and little neck clam have to measure a minimum length of 35 millimeters, and butter clam a minimum length of 55. Pacific oysters have a daily limit of 12, but Olympia oysters are closed for conservation. To avoid inadvertently harvesting Olympia oyster, do not harvest any oysters less than 5 centimeters in diameter. On that note, harvesters are encouraged to shuck oysters on the beach and leave the shells there, or return the oyster shells to the beach where they were collected whenever possible. In order to avoid the transfer of the invasive European green crab, dispose oyster shells harvested from the west coast of Vancouver Island back to the beach where they came from, or put them in with your household garbage. Clam harvesters are also encouraged to fill in holes to reduce predation on exposed juvenile clams. These are just a few examples of what can be found in the restrictions table. Ensure you check the regulations for yourself for any additional information, updates, and changes. As a harvester, it's important to be aware of some of the risks associated with harvesting bivalves and the improper transportation and preparation. Call this a scare tactic if you will, but the following will outline the signs and symptoms of shellfish poisoning. Bivalves are highly sensitive to the water quality of their marine environment. Because they feed by filtering microscopic organisms from the water, harmful bacteria, viruses, and marine biotoxins from the surroundings can build up in their tissues and cause illness in the people who consume them. Eating shellfish with high levels of certain biotoxins can lead to serious and potentially life-threatening illnesses, such as paralytic shellfish poisoning, or PSP, amnesic shellfish poisoning, ASP, and diarrhea shellfish poisoning, DSP. Under certain marine conditions, certain species of microscopic algae can multiply rapidly, causing a bloom in population. This phenomenon is commonly referred to as red tide, because at times, seawater can become discolored from the dense accumulation of algae. Red tide events include biotoxin-producing algae that can contaminate bivalve shellfish in the area. Algae blooms are most common in spring and summer months when sunlight, temperature, and precipitation favor algae growth. However, algae blooms can occur at other times of the year as well. It's also important to note that many toxic-producing algae blooms are not red or do not cause discoloration in the water and cannot be readily seen by shore. This is why you should always check whether an area is open before you harvest. Paralytic shellfish poisoning, PSP. PSP is an illness that can have serious and potentially fatal effects. It's caused by eating bivalve shellfish that have been contaminated by toxins produced by certain species of microscopic marine algae found in coastal waters. The toxins that cause PSP are not destroyed by cooking. The following are symptoms of PSP. Symptoms can begin within a few minutes and up to 10 hours after consumption. Symptoms can include tingling sensation or numbness around the lips that gradually spread to the face and neck, a prickly sensation in the fingertips and toes, drowsiness, headache and dizziness, difficulty swallowing. In more severe cases, you may also experience incoherent speech, a prickly sensation in the arms and legs, stiffness and non-coordination of limbs, weakness, and a rapid pulse. Respiratory difficulty, salivation, temporary blindness, nausea, and vomiting may also occur. In extreme cases, paralysis of the respiratory muscles may lead to respiratory arrest and death within 2 to 12 hours after consumption. Seriously affected people must be hospitalized and placed under respiratory care. There is no known cure for PSP. If you suspect you have PSP, you should immediately seek medical attention. Amnesic shellfish poisoning and domoic acid. ASP is an illness caused by domoic acid, a naturally occurring acid which is produced by some marine algae. Domoic acid can accumulate in a number of filter-feeding bivalve, including clams, mussels, scallops, and oysters. The toxins that cause ASP are not destroyed by cooking. The symptoms of ASP can include nausea, vomiting and diarrhea, muscle weakness, disorientation, and memory loss. Symptoms usually occur 30 minutes to 6 hours after consumption. If the poisoning is not severe, the symptoms disappear completely within a few days in an otherwise healthy person. However, in extreme cases, death can occur. If you suspect you have ASP, you should immediately seek medical attention. Diarrhea shellfish poisoning, DSP. Diarrhea shellfish poisoning is an illness caused by toxins that are produced by certain microscopic plants. Generally, DSP is often short-lived and non-life-threatening. However, in some people, especially young children, the elderly, pregnant women, and those with weakened immune systems, DSP can be very serious. The toxins that cause DSP are not destroyed by cooking. Symptoms of DSP include diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, headache, abdominal cramps, and chills. Symptoms usually occur 30 minutes to 6 hours after consumption. The symptoms disappear completely within a few days in an otherwise healthy person. If you suspect you have a severe case of DSP, or should problems persist, you should immediately seek medical attention. Bacteria and viruses. Bacteria and viruses that may be present in the water in which shellfish live are capable of causing illnesses in humans. These include Vibrio, norovirus, and hepatitis A. Vibrio is a naturally occurring bacterium found in our coastal waters. The presence of Vibrio can increase in warm waters to the levels that cause humans to become ill, particularly during the summer months. Symptoms of Vibrio include diarrhea, abdominal discomfort, nausea, vomiting, fever, and a headache. Proper harvesting, transportation, and cooking practices are essential to prevent this illness. The norovirus and hepatitis A can result from eating shellfish from water polluted with sewage. Gross. Neurovirus symptoms include diarrhea, abdominal discomfort, nausea, vomiting, fatigue, and fever. Hepatitis A symptoms include abdominal discomfort, nausea, fatigue, fever, and jaundice. Persons with liver conditions are at risk of more serious illness. Bivalves can also accumulate chemicals from surrounding industrial and mining activities. Illness may not be acute, but chronic adverse health effects may result after prolonged exposure from ingestion. So again, always check the regulations to ensure you're harvesting from an area that's open. The last thing you want to do is poison yourself, family, or friends. The government implements rigorous testing procedures to ensure bivalves harvested from an open area are safe for human consumption if best harvesting, transportation, and cooking practices are followed. I made this video to focus on the regs, but I left some resources in the description which I'd highly recommend you read through before heading out. I should also note the DFO has a shellfish harvesting map which provides real-time openings and closures of Canadian harvesting areas for bivalve shellfish. Personally, I find the map harder to navigate than the regs, plus it doesn't seem to work on my smartphone, but to each their own. And one last thing, why did I make this video? Because after my first bivalve harvesting video, I had a bunch of people reach out and request that I do so. You'd think the government would provide some sort of course you'd have to take before buying your recreational license, but that's not the case. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You don't just buy your driver's license or pleasure craft operator certificate. It's ludicrous that one just buys their fishing license. Email the DFO, link in the description, and ask them to develop a course one must take before issued a license to harvest. In terms of safety and conservation, it's a no-brainer. Hope you all learned something. Throw the video a thumbs up if you found this useful, and enjoy your first bivalve feast. Peace and love.